You probably know Higurashi from the anime. The creepy village. The paranoia. The disturbing smile of Rina. And of course, those moments where everything suddenly goes completely insane. But if you only watched the anime, then honestly, you still haven't experienced the full story. Because the visual novel version of Higurashi is a completely different experience. And today I want to explain why Higurashi When They Cry Ch.1 Onikakushi is one of the best visual novels you can start with, especially if you already love the anime. First of all, the atmosphere in the visual novel is on another level. The anime is fast. It has to fit everything into episodes, so scenes move quickly, horror moments hit hard, and the pacing is aggressive. But the visual novel takes its time. You spend hours with Keiichi and the club members just doing dumb, funny things together. Playing games. Joking around. Acting like normal friends. And that's exactly why the horror works so well. The longer you stay in Hinamizawa, the more comfortable it feels. You start thinking, maybe this place isn't that bad. Then little details begin to appear. A weird pause in conversation. A suspicious look. Someone avoiding a question. And slowly, the game starts making you paranoid. Not with jump scares. Not with loud music. But with pure psychological pressure. That's something the visual novel does better than almost any anime adaptation. Another reason why this is such a good beginner visual novel is the writing style itself. A lot of people think visual novels are hard to get into because they imagine massive walls of text with no emotion. But Higurashi doesn't feel like that. The dialogue feels alive. Characters interrupt each other. They joke constantly. They argue like actual friends. Keiichi especially carries the story hard. He's funny, emotional, dramatic, and sometimes completely irrational. Which makes everything feel more realistic when the paranoia starts taking over. And because you spend so much time inside his head, the psychological horror becomes way more personal than in the anime. You don't just watch Keiichi losing trust in everyone. You experience it with him. That's the magic of Onikakushi. And honestly, even if you already know the plot twists from the anime, the visual novel still works perfectly. In some ways, it works even better. Because Higurashi was originally written as a mystery first, horror second. The game constantly throws tiny details at you. Lines that seem meaningless at first. Moments that suddenly become important later. The anime often rushes through these parts, but the visual novel lets them breathe. You start building theories. Questioning characters. Trying to understand what's real and what's not. And by the end of chapter 1, your brain is completely destroyed in the best possible way. Another thing people underestimate is the soundtrack. The music in Higurashi is legendary. Not because it's orchestral or cinematic, but because it feels strangely unsettling. Sometimes emotional. Sometimes nostalgic. Sometimes empty. There are moments where almost nothing happens, but the soundtrack alone makes you nervous. And then suddenly silence hits, and it feels terrifying. The visual novel understands tension better than most horror games. Also, let's talk about the art for a second. A lot of new players get scared away because the original sprites look old or weird. But honestly, after a few hours, you stop caring completely. The expressions become iconic. Especially when characters switch from cute to genuinely terrifying in 1 second. And if you still don't like the original art, the Steam version supports updated sprites anyway. So there's really no reason to avoid it. What makes Higurashi special compared to many other visual novels is that it doesn't immediately feel like reading a book. It feels like slowly entering a nightmare. The pacing tricks you into relaxing. The comedy makes you lower your guard. And then the story emotionally destroys you. That structure is exactly why so many people consider Higurashi one of the greatest horror visual novels ever made. And Chapter 1 Onikakushi is the perfect entry point. It's confusing, disturbing, emotional, and unforgettable. By the end, you'll either be completely obsessed or emotionally damaged. Probably both. So if you loved the anime and always wondered whether the visual novel is worth playing, yes. Absolutely yes. Because Higurashi isn't just another anime adaptation. This is the original experience. The complete psychological horror journey the way it was meant to be experienced. And once you finish Chapter 1, there's a very high chance you won't be able to stop. Welcome to Hinamizawa.